Hello and welcome. This is our final panel to our virtual film-friendly forum, and we thank you so much for attending. We're so excited you guys could be here with us. Thank you for a really great week of programming. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback and hearing more about your experience this week. And then we also look forward to seeing you again in May at our in-person event at South Fork Ranch. Thank you again. We're really excited today to have this conversation, this sort of final keynote, if you will. We're really looking forward to hopefully helping you guys have some takeaways as you move forward into your film-friendly experience. And so I want to introduce today, our keynote is going to be talking about elevating your creative community. And I'm really excited to be talking to Mitch Witten, the Chief Operating Officer of Visit Fort Worth, and Jessica Christopherson, the Vice President of Marketing and the Film Commissioner at Visit Fort Worth and the Fort Worth Film Commission. So welcome, you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll just jump in and get started. One of the reasons we were so excited to talk to you today is the Fort Worth Film Commission. In conjunction with Visit Fort Worth, the commission has been around for 6 years, and as we talk specifically about media production, and then we'll talk about the entire creative community, which includes a lot of other industries outside of just media production, we've watched you guys do some tremendous things and grow the Film Commission over the last 6 years, and we really are always excited when we get to partner with you guys because of your community-centered, marketing-first approach. We just think it's a great fit, and we think a lot of our communities sort of coming along up in their certification process will be able to learn a lot. So thanks again. And what we want to get started today and talk about, I just mentioned the community-driven approach that Visit Fort Worth and the Fort Worth Film Commission sort of take on. And one of the things that always gets us excited when you guys talk about the projects you're working on is how much you're listening to and you're in tune with the community, and you're sort of elevating what the community wants. And I just want to get started and talk about how this connectivity and how this came about, how this approach came about.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's great to be with you and talk about our growing film tourism scene. But first, I want to say we couldn't have done any of it without the Texas Film Commission. Y'all really, truly have been an incredible source of support from the governor's office every step of the way, and not just from an incentive standpoint, but your advice and counsel and the community you create. Really, thank you for that. But speaking of community, I think it's important that we not just talk about exciting projects that we have and so many of our colleagues have, but really focus on what are we trying to accomplish for our community. And some years ago, really before we started the Film Commission, a lot of conversation came to us saying we need a film commission. It was really community driven, and said there is not anyone who's answering the call when production comes to town. And thankfully, Jessica has a background in TV and entertainment, and stepped up and said, we can do this, and really started talking with community leaders and Mayor Price. And it really comes from an approach of really building things from the inside out. It's important we reach out to productions and invite them here, but it really started by saying, what does the community want? And they wanted support for the creative class. We love the buzz that productions bring to town, but we also really wanted to create jobs, and certainly jobs for crew, but as many of our listeners have seen too, jobs for the coffee shops, the dry cleaners, the lumber yards, the places that supply the tools that any business needs to get business done. So those were some of the big important first steps we took in Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned Mayor Price, but who were some of the other community leaders, whether they were elected officials or industry stakeholders? Who were some of the first community leaders that you started collaborating with?
Well, one I want to highlight, in addition to Mayor Price and our elected officials and in the business community, is an entrepreneur who we profiled in an early project. And really, why this is important is, as you know, Jessica wears both a marketing hat and a film hat, and we really see those as connected. Mm-hmm. And several years ago, we did a series of videos called Fort Worth Stories, and you can see those at fortworthstories.com, where we realized that visitors didn't just want to know what hotels we had and what attractions, but what were the people like? Hospitality is so important. So we profiled Jonathan Morris, who at the time owned Fort Worth Barbershop and was just starting out as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And we profiled him in a little video that later has now became a pitch video to Magnolia Network, and he is now the star and host of Self-Employed with Chip and Joanna Gaines network on Magnolia. And I believe we have a clip of his story.
Yes, we do. I think our behind the scenes elves are gonna play that for us.
I want to create spaces that bring people together. One of my objectives for Fort Worth Barbershop is to create this space where cultures collide, where people from different walks of life that otherwise may not cross paths, all of a sudden they cross paths here at the barbershop. We'll have the young hipster sitting next to an old cowboy with his boots. We want to be a place that represents diversity the same way that our city truly does. We want to create a space where people are having conversations they may not be having in other places in their life. We don't have majestic mountains, and we don't have an ocean, but we have people. And I think that it is our people that make the community what it is. As you spend more and more time in Fort Worth, I think what people come to realize is that there's some really special stories and there's some really interesting people that are creating what we love about the city. I want to create legacy. There's so many factors that are pulling people apart. I want to bring people together in people's heart of hearts. People are good, and I want to be a little part of helping create that and make guys look and feel great.
Always gotta learn to unmute. That was so great, and I'm excited to check out Jonathan's work on the Magnolia Network. I feel like it's such an ecosystem of all of that, like the entrepreneurship, the media production, even like something like the culinary efforts. And we'll talk about your efforts with Eat Fort Worth, hopefully in a little bit, or we will. But this is, I wanted to sort of just get back to that. Like, I like that you're talking about, it's not just elected officials or people in positions of power. It's the people like Jonathan, the entrepreneurs that are driving the sort of, that are entrenched in the community, that are also leaders and can help create the creative voice and culture. And so I like that you highlighted that. And I wanted to give you guys both a chance to sort of follow up on talking about that. And if there was anything else you wanted to highlight, or the people who got involved.
Yeah, I think we had so many community leaders in different districts and neighborhoods just step up and want to be involved, whether it was a bank, a district representative, director of economic development for the city has been incredibly supportive, Robert Stern. So it's really just been gratifying to see how many people want to get involved in the creative community and are excited about it, whether it's film, music, culinary arts. And so from the get-go, we had so many people just raise their hand and want to be film-friendly locations and want to figure out how they could help, how they could be involved. It was a really new concept for Fort Worth, so to speak, to be able to be part of, a bigger project like this. And so we had a lot of people come to us. And so that made it really, I won't say easy, but made it easier to get started. And so when you have a community that's supportive of it, and you have a lot of folks in the creative industry who want to see these different areas grow, I think it makes it that much more fulfilling and easier to get those steps in the right place. And so we also had an incredibly supportive city council when we got started. So we've been lucky in that way to just keep things moving and keep growing. The production scene in Fort Worth has really grown as far as production companies based in Fort Worth. And so even 6 years ago, when there were, maybe we just knew of a few, to see that list grow and expand in the past 6 years has been pretty incredible. So I think if you're able to get out there and build relationships, which Mitch and then Bob, our CEO, have been so good about doing within the community, then it just sets you up even more so for success. So it's all about that communication with your neighborhoods, your districts, your partners. And so that's been incredibly helpful.
And let's be honest that sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes the last thing you want from people outside your organization is creativity and input. But let's be honest, the right answer is to get more people involved in what we do and to be a community-based organization. So it can be hard, and it means spending time with a lot of different people and listening and engaging. And so let's I just want to remember that it takes work and a good ear, but we're better off for it.
Yeah, and part of
go ahead.
Part of getting started in our film and music scene was, Mitch and Bob being open to hosting town halls and mixers and let's get out there and let's host these events so people can learn more about what we're doing and can feel involved. Because if people feel involved, then they're going to want to be that much more invested in it versus here's what we're doing and pushing it on them versus come be part of this with us. So I think that's made a huge difference for us as well.
Yeah, they have stake in the game, right? And I like, Mitch, I like what you said about it being hard work. I think, but in that hard work, you're not alone. You're not trying to troubleshoot and move forward on one path. You're getting that feedback to see what might be possible. And I love that you guys have sort of followed a lot of different threads about the possibility of how all these things intersect. And it's really cool to see. You did mention the hard work, and, we want to celebrate triumphs, but I think also a lot of the communities getting certified and starting out and going, oh my gosh, how do I get started? Might also be able to learn from some of the challenges you faced as you were getting started, putting this coalition and getting your creative community sort of all moving in the same direction. What were some of the challenges you found?
I mean, honestly, I think a lot of us, especially film commissions or film-friendly communities that are based in a tourism board with the city, it's not your only job. So you're doing it on top of all of your other duties or jobs, but it's something that if you're passionate about it and want to make happen, you just kind of figure out how to make it happen. So I think for us, okay, we have everything else we need to be doing, but we want to do this. How do we fit it into our day-to-day? How do we get people involved? And really just, I think once building those first steps, getting the database set up, getting film-friendly locations, and really reaching out to the community to build something that you have to market in those first, couple months or first year. So I think for me personally, that was part of the challenge. Luckily, we had an amazing intern come on board who's now our associate film commissioner, Taylor Hardy, who's built it from the ground up with us. Mm-hmm. And, lucky that we have such an awesome team that everybody kind of stepped in different ways to build it up. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge is just finding the time and making the time, because in most cases, especially I know in some of these smaller communities, it's going to be someone who already has other job duties that's doing this on top of that. So,
yeah. Mitch?
I think I would just add that obviously money and incentives, there's no question, it's never enough. And so wherever you are out there and whatever your budget, no matter how small or how big, it's never enough. And I think it's making do with what you have. Jessica was very creative in putting together soft incentives, and whether it's discounts at hotels and local businesses, things like that. And frankly, just what so many people on this call do, doing the hard work of making sure you find the right location for the right production. So I think, again, budget will always be an issue, and it's about being creative and a problem solver.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think sometimes we forget, and I can speak from my commission that, that we have other resources, not just in terms of incentives. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is say, if our incentives, funding is limited, like how else can we add value? What else can we do to be a good resource for these productions? And so that's a really good point. Jessica, you mentioned Taylor Hardy, and I wanted to sort of move into your marketing first approach and how you'd go about doing that. And maybe this is a good time for you guys to also talk a little bit more about the other initiatives like Eat Fort Worth and Hear Fort Worth. But going back to Taylor, Taylor is the person who does your social media, and your social media is really great and artfully curated. And so I just wanted to make sure Taylor got the congrats on that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that and how you guys sort of came to that idea.
For sure. Thank you. Yeah, Taylor is incredible. And she's done such a great job with our social media. And I think, one of our, superpowers as a film commission has been really involving the film community and showcasing all the different filmmakers who are based in Fort Worth. And she's done such a great job of doing that through our Instagram account and really making them, I think, filmmakers feel involved and to be part of a community. She's made so many great connections over social media. So I guess one piece of advice I could offer for some of the smaller film communities and film commissions is if you have limited amounts of time and one thing you really want to focus on from a marketing standpoint, I really would focus on Instagram over the other two, because that's where like filmmakers and visual artists seem to be over the other channels, and she's just done such a good job of connecting, making them feel included, and sharing that content. But as far as a marketing first approach, I think another thing we've really tried to do is, again, just showcase our local talent through our film friendly, as I always get this wrong, female filmmaker Friday initiative, where we would feature different female filmmakers over a series of Fridays and just showcasing the talent that's here and what they're doing. And so really, obviously we want to showcase our locations, soft incentives, what the city can offer production, but we also need to raise the talent you have and show that Fort Worth is a creative community that's ready to support your project, because we have such a robust community of filmmakers, musicians, all these other things. So, with Mitch's leadership and my background in marketing, Mitch's background in marketing, I think we've always tried to take that approach of let's market the talent we have in the city while also marketing, what the city, what Fort Worth, what the Film Commission can do for you when we bring your production to town. So we've done that at different festivals, South by Southwest, Sundance, obviously partnered with y'all, but again, also marketing it to the community, marketing it to Fort Worth, that you have this amazing creative class here. Let's continue to grow it and build it. So Mitch, for things to add.
Well, I think that's actually was a real surprise to us, was when we first started out getting to visit Fort Worth. We talked about not spending really any time or money promoting to locals. It was all about the visitor, which is great until you realize that locals are a magnet for visitors and local passion. And I think the same thing is true for productions. When a production comes to town from out of your area, they are energized when they have crew show up, when they sense that enthusiasm. The same as any business, they want the support and love. And I think Jessica's energizing and her town halls for film have been really important. I think that another surprise outcome to me was Taylor and Jessica's ability to identify new filmmakers out of this effort who we could then hire for ourselves to do marketing videos. Mm-hmm. So a couple of years ago, when we did a new series of diversity and inclusion videos, we reached out to those communities and had a young Hispanic filmmaker, German Torres, do a great video about how he saw our historic North Side Hispanic community. And we had and then we had other filmmakers spotlighting other parts of town and community. So that was a real surprise to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fantastic. Go ahead, Jessica. Looked like you were going to jump in.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree. I think it's been, I was just going to say, with the Visit Fort Worth, all of our promotional videos for Visit and Film, just going off what Mitch said, we always do try to hire local, or we always have hired local filmmakers, but then also musicians as well. So with exception of maybe a couple of videos, all of our marketing videos do feature local musicians. So there's just a really nice tie-in, and that's another thing I would encourage communities to do is if you have a music-friendly liaison as well, then make sure you're working very closely, or in a lot of cases, I'm sure that's the same person. But there is a real opportunity to blend film and music, and that's something that we've tried to do and will continue to grow. So
Yeah, I think that's something even at the state level, the music office, we've been trying to collaborate more. We've always been sort of right next door to each other, and we've always worked together, but we really have sort of tried to amp up how we collaborate and the types of projects. So I'm glad that it's also to see that it happens at the community level as well.
Yeah, I would say one more thing about the collaboration that that we've witnessed. It's been really cool by getting filmmakers together at these mixers, and through connections on social. It's been really cool to see how supportive everyone is of each other, and then have found ways to collaborate. People who may have not known each other before or known about different projects, and so we've seen a lot of collaboration come from local filmmakers just by getting people together and through some of this marketing. So there's a really cool opportunity to grow this kind of this friendship and this collaboration among an industry if you haven't already set that up yet. So
I like that point, because I think, and you might hear this when we travel outside of Texas, one of the biggest compliments and questions I get as the film commissioner for the states from other film commissions is, how do we keep our local talent in, like, you have a really good local talent base in Texas, and they seem to want to either come back frequently or stay in Texas. And that is something that other jurisdictions don't quite have, and they're always trying to figure out that piece. And I think what you guys are talking about is how those pieces stay. Like, if there are artists that are able to collaborate and create roots in their community, they don't want to go other places because they feel like they have the creative freedom.
That's really true. And you do hear that a lot from productions that have worked in other states, and they do want to come back. I mean, really because of the crew and because of the hospitality, the Texas hospitality in a lot of places. One thing I was going to mention too, just going back to marketing, even if you don't have a marketing budget and you just have like an Instagram account or something, even just showcasing what film-friendly locations you have and just like getting it out there. That's how we started on Instagram, was just showcasing as we started to get photos in, like, here's a film-friendly location. And from there, we've built out different video series of film-friendly locations. If we want to take a look at one of those right now.
We do have them.
Okay, cool. So we worked with a local filmmaker to produce these. And so we highlighted some of our most popular and most requested film locations, and then created a trailer to go along with it. So
excellent.
So anyway, so we've used those to push out on social, to pitch different productions. If we're, starting to have a conversation with the producer or whoever for the first time, we'll share those just as another way to showcase some of what Fort Worth has to offer as far as locations.
I was watching that clip in preparation, and I love the cinematography to it, and I love that you guys are using the resources you have around you, like your locations, your local filmmakers. It's just layers on layers of how to showcase local talent, and I think that's something that you guys seem to do organically, and I think is really cool. So
it really is about being open to connection. I mean, that was done by 12 Midnight, and a young filmmaking organization here, a company, and they've gone on to do work for Abraham Alexander and Leon Bridges, who are just starting their national tour. And so the connectivity really is impressive and amazing when you're just open to it, and what young talent can do.
So I think this discussion is sort of lending itself sort of naturally flowing into the sort of how you created. So you have different initiatives. You have Film Fort Worth, Hear Fort Worth, Eat Fort Worth, which is the culinary sort of endeavors of your city. And you guys have really crafted a very unique vision and voice for your city and the creative community. And I think it's really important to look at the ecosystem and how they all sort of go together. And are there examples? I know we've talked about sort of maximizing your connections and really looking at what you have locally, but and you talked about the mixers, but were there any other examples you guys can think of about sort of the benefits of support in this type of community, or how you've seen that grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen, I mean, I'll let Mitch speak to this too, but since we became the first music-friendly city, I think it was back in 2017, we've just seen interest in the music community grow. We've seen so many musicians reach out and say like, hey, I want to be involved. Like, I mean, so many people that have come to us that we wouldn't have otherwise known even lived in the city and were pursuing music. And so I think we've just, same way we have in film, seen just so many people want to get involved, whether they're musicians themselves or they are local corporations or districts. And so Tom Martins, who's our creative director and then over our music initiative as well, has really just done an amazing job collaborating with this community and growing it. And so I think the growth has been most interesting to me, Mitch. But
well, as one business leader mentioned to me, he said, it looks like y'all are adding the building blocks that we were missing: music, food, film, sports, even our conventions, being more strategic in the type of conventions we want to see here. And it really isn't about us. It's about listening to the community and seeing people say, we need to build up our music scene. Do you see all the cool restaurants opening here? Because never forget that success leads to success. And so it just takes someone spotlighting, look what they're doing, to encourage the next person. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot more goes into building businesses and entrepreneurs than that. But we're definitely wanting to do our part, because at the same, if we're not helping meet community goals, I think the alignment of tourism in each of these areas with the city's goals is a really big part of what we're talking about. So for example, our lane is tourism. But if it helps others in the city attract talent to live here and to live, work, and play here, that's great to work side by side with them and to know that we're aligned on those goals, even though our lane is getting people to come here, spend their money, and then they go away.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Jessica?
No, I mean, I just think, also, people travel for music, people travel for food. So just to go on top of what Mitch said, I mean, just to kind of bringing those all together, it's amazing how cohesive they all are. And then to see those communities really connect, because they're all creative, culinary chefs, the food industry, musicians, filmmakers. So there's just, again, just to emphasize, there's just such an opportunity for collaboration when you can get these people together.
Yeah. And I think, I think it's true for the tourism component. It's also specific to media production. All these industries overlap. Productions need all of these things. They need to have a vibrant, when you're relocating a crew for months at a time, they want a place to go hear live music. They want a place to, relax. They want food. They need food. Happy crews, happy bellies, right? But I think just even looking sort of specific to media production, all these things overlap. And so kind of being aware how that whole ecosystem stays in effect is important. And I think, I like how you guys are looking at it, not just from the tourism perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And just, going back on the marketing thing, again, I know not everyone has the opportunity to go to South by Southwest or these different things, but anytime we do go out of market to do an activation, we try to take an element from all those areas, whether the tourism aspect, the music aspect, the film aspect, the food aspect, and take those on the road with us, whatever we do. So whether it's bringing a chef on the road and showing a clip from a film that was shot in Fort Worth, or showcasing a local filmmaker and local music, we really try to incorporate that in all aspects of activations and honestly in marketing too, where we can. So marketing for for tourism to the city. We've even started to do it more in the past few years on the meeting side. When we're marketing to meetings and conventions, we'll take a musician to a meetings convention that's, there to try to bring business to Fort Worth. So there's just a lot of different ways as a tourism board or a city that you can integrate all these different things.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I'm going to move us on to one of the most popular topics I get asked about, and I'm sure you guys get asked about it too, is incentives. And incentives take many forms. They don't just, a lot of times we hear, especially during legislative session time, we hear about the state incentive program. And whatnot, but they aren't just monetary. They can be sort of added value, soft incentives. And Mitch, you touched a little bit upon the work that Jessica did or does with soft incentives like hotel discounts. I think in one project, Jessica, you had sort of the local biking companies sort of give bike discounts, which is great, especially for a crew that will be in town for a while and you want them to see your city, but you also want them to be able to have a life outside of work. And I think that was a really great idea. So I want to talk a little bit about, how have you worked with the community to offer these soft incentives? And then we'll talk about more of the state incentives after that, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's just, thanks to building those relationships in the beginning, we're able to reach out to partners to offer those type of incentives. We have a lot of incredible hotel partners that have come to the table to offer media and production rates. And so having that little piece has been huge. Like you mentioned, the bike share company offering comp bike. We've had coffee shops that have come to the table and said, hey, we'll offer free coffee during these times for crews that are in town. We created a film-friendly badge program. So for crews, so when they're in town, they can take the badge around to different restaurants and shops and get discounts and free appetizers or free drink, things like that, just kind of fun, small perks. And then, we've been able to work with some of the local restaurants to offer really reduced meals and craft services and catering and things like that. So it's really just going out and, doing a bit of sales, pitching what you're doing, pitching how to help the community, how it can help bring business. And that's really, thanks to Mitch's relationships that I mentioned beforehand, has really helped us just grow in that area. And for smaller productions, for any production, but especially for smaller ones, every little bit helps and counts. So if you can work with hotel partners to offer a discounted production rate, that's huge. And then all those little things add up. And like you said, they do have off time too and want to go do fun things and explore. So if you can work with a museum to offer free passes for crew and things like that. We worked with the local YMCA to offer free and discounted gym memberships for a production that was in town. So it's really, a lot of times you just have to go out and ask and see what you can come up with.
I think that's a good point to touch on is that a lot of times we hear that incentives drive where a project will go, but it is also where the crew wants to spend a lot of time. They may be choosing a jurisdiction that might have a more competitive incentive, but if they can't get crew to want to travel there or work there, they can't take the project there anyway. So there is a lot to be said for these smaller touches, and it's about scale. If your community is first starting out, start out with free coffee during, 4 to 6 or 10 to 11 or something.
Yeah. And I think what you said is so right. A lot of it is marketing. Like there are fun things to do in your city because you're right. Crew don't want to go somewhere where there's nothing hours. So if you have a great music scene and you have museums and fun shopping and restaurants, that's all important to market as well, in my opinion. So
yeah. You guys have been great partners in helping us message out the Texas Moving Image Industry Incentive Program. I will not be saying that 3 times fast. And one of the other state programs that doesn't maybe get as much, buzz is our Media Production Development Zone program, where we help develop, it's a sales tax exemption for the building and refurbishment of media production infrastructure. And, you guys have been a great partner in sort of marketing that Fort Worth is a media production development zone. And you've had some companies come through and take advantage of that program. And I think you've really done a great job of leveraging that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how you approach that and sort of how you see that as a benefit, potentially.
Yeah, well, I think, that was really, thanks to Red Sanders and Red Productions, Backlot Studios, and Robert Stearns, Director of Economic Development for the City of Fort Worth, who really helped get that push through. But I definitely think it is a marketing point. I mean, to be one of only 2 cities in the entire state that have this zone that's willing to support creatives in that way, I think it's something that we've definitely shared. And Mitch, I think you've done a good job of using that as a talking point as well.
Well, and if you're not working with your tourism bureau now, or you're not a part of it, connect with them, because this also has to do with what we call destination development. Tourism helps create places and neighborhoods, and neighborhoods help create those places. So, for example, this production zone is really, the heart of it is in what we call the near south side, just south of downtown, and it really is has become the hub of creativity, agencies, creative groups, as well as some of the best restaurants and bars in the city. And you can see how all that goes together. So I think that neighborhood wanted that kind of back to community driven, and was really part of a desire to, and frankly, a tourism discussion of how do you co-locate some of those things? How do, corridors, when you have a corridor of economic development, people want to be a part of that. They want to locate in there. San Antonio does this very well. And others do too. So I think you have to, again, thinking about your neighborhoods within your city can be very helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. So what is next, do you see, in terms of infrastructure for Fort Worth? What's on your wish list or your hopes?
Well, we were just named, or not named, we were just, data from the census shows us to be really the fastest growing large city in America. And it's really helping manage that growth. And, when you're trying to, let's be honest, any ambitious tourism board that's listening, or film commission, it can be messy. You're trying to listen to people, you're trying to move projects forward, you're trying to collaborate together, and it's not easy. And so it's okay if there are days of frustration and just in trying to figure out what you're doing. But that's, when we look at Fort Worth, we see our stockyards has been really reinvented and restored with a lot of historical accuracy, very film friendly, thankfully. We just had the Yellowstone 1883 prequel wrap production in the stockyards before moving on to other communities. We have sports tourism growing, we have the music scene growing, and so hotel growth. And so it's really, again, just back to where we began, which is listening to, making sure we're in lockstep with our community partners. Are we really focused on those community goals? Because shining a light on the creative class continues to be really one of our top priorities with the Film Commission.
Great.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, I think long-term, we'd love to see a larger studio space where we can, try to bring even more big projects to town and have them, based in Fort Worth. And so I think, every big community or community in general wants to have something like that to be able to offer that type of space. So that would be wonderful one day down the road. So
yeah, we're seeing that trend, especially with the last legislative session. That infrastructure is on everyone's mind. So hopefully that will come to fruition as we all work on that together. We're getting towards the end of our times, but I just wanted to go over a few things about, we talked a lot about the marketing approach and sort of fostering the community relationships, but you guys also do a great job of working with productions. And I was hoping, Jessica, you could speak about how you approach your relationship with productions that are interested in coming to Fort Worth.
Yeah, honestly, we really try to just approach it as hands-on, to just be involved as much as possible, whether it's a small project or a large project, commercial, reality. We just try to get in from the very beginning as much as we can and be there every step of the way. What we've really tried to do more than anything is really serve as that communications hub. So get to know the city permitting office really well, get to know the city managers and brief them as soon as something comes up that we know could be a bigger project involved, more street closures and things like that. So I think communication has really been key. The minute we learn about something, give a heads up to that district, give a heads up to whoever might be involved, and just making that production producer, location manager, whoever we're working with feel supported and know that we will be there whenever they need something. And so I think it's a lot of it's been those connections, the communication, but just actually good customer service. I think that's really like the key is just, when they need something. I know you can't always stop everything you're doing, but sometimes with productions you have to make sure that it's successful. And I feel like one thing that luckily our team has been able to do is provide that. And so I think that'll continue to be a big goal for us, is to be able to be as responsive as we have as we continue to grow. So I think even if you don't have an answer for them, just replying and saying like, let me get on this, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Like just that communication goes such a long way, I think, with community partners and a production.
I think that's something we hear a lot. And I think that's something people forget. Like, thanks for getting back to me. I haven't heard from other entities. So that can go a long way.
Definitely.
I like that you mentioned that. So what advice, as our community partners are watching this conversation, what advice do either of you have for communities either new to working with production or looking to promote their community as a filming destination?
I would say if you're new to the industry, just learn all you can about the industry. There's great opportunities through AFCI, Association of Film Commissions International. Talk to local filmmakers. Just get to know filmmakers and what they expect, what they need. If you're not familiar with how a production works, like try to get an opportunity to go on set and just watch and learn and soak it in, because there's so much that goes into it. And if you've never been part of that, it might be more challenging to get it up and off the ground, and just make those local relationships with your city officials, with your different entertainment districts, with your partners and locations, and just, and also just be patient. Just take it one step at a time and do what you can do to get started. That'd be my advice.
Yeah. Mitch, did you want to have anything to add?
Well, just to echo Jessica, really and I have to think of it as a personal development, because we try to get up every day and be better. And it's really about using what we have, and always, number one, as we've talked about, number two is success always leads to more success. So a lot of our bread and butter is still about the commercial, the small project, helping one filmmaker get started. And then third is just be curious. And if you listen to Adam Grant's podcast or follow him on Twitter and talk about work life, it really is about being curious. And as Jessica said, learning how to be better ourselves, learning about the new productions, learning about meeting new people. And because at the end of the day, it really is about those relationships. So thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. I think we're at the end of all my questions for you, and we were worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about. So I can't thank you both enough for joining us today. You guys have always been incredible partners to work with, and this conversation just sort of reinforces that. We're going to make sure that that our audience has the Fort Worth Film Commission and Visit Fort Worth information, and we'll be able to facilitate questions, as will you. And thank you again. This was such a great conversation to wrap up our virtual forum. We look forward to seeing everyone in person in May at South Fork Ranch, including the both of you. I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, AMP Studios. They're our media sponsor. And thank you. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having us. And anyone who's watching, feel free to reach out to Mitch or myself anytime. We'd be happy to help with anything we can.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right. Bye, y'all. Thank you.